No matter what you do to me, Luthor, your plans won't work.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in the new trailer for Superman. I'm not gonna lie, I cried a little bit watching this.
Oh, man. All right. Well, oh, God, that knew how to get me.
Okay, I cried a lot watching this, but Superman is my favorite superhero, and this movie seems like it's honoring his past while also giving us a bright new future. So let's break this trailer down. We start off with a building falling, setting up this chain reaction. Now notice there's no sound. Just one note, and we don't hear the sounds of people running away. So the subtext here is that no one is here and no one can save you, you are alone. This trailer is narrated by a conversation between Superman and Lex Luthor. Now, for the first 50 years of his existence, Lex Luthor was just a straight up supervillain. He wanted to do crime and get rich, and Superman got in the way. But then in 1986, John Byrne reinvented the character, turning him into a CEO and mogul. And this works so much better for Lex Luthor. He hates Superman because Lex used to rule Metropolis, so he sees himself as the pinnacle of human achievement, and he's bothered that some outsider can come in and easily show him up. This also makes Lex way more of an intellectual threat to Superman. Superman can't just punch him because he's an upstanding member of the community. So I'm glad this trailer finally gives Lex a chance to shine. Then we get the first notes of music. Now notice these, I think, are the same notes as the John Williams theme. Just lower and slower. Here, the notes are dark as this woman thinks she is going to die. But then the camera does this sweet 180 and we see Superman using his powers, but in a new way. Normally, we would see Superman just hold up a building with his hands, but it makes sense that he would use his whole body because it gives him more points of contact. And when she sees this vision of hope, the score begins. As Lex says,
the most powerful being on planet Earth.
Notice we see Superman ascending with the sun behind him to imply a kind of heavenly symbolism, like he is ascending above the earth. Even though Superman was originally intended to be a metaphor for Moses being sent down the Nile in a basket just as Superman was sent in a rocket ship, Christians also identify with the character as one of their heroes, you know, the only son of his father who was sent to Earth to save humanity. Zack Snyder was not subtle about this metaphor at all. Now here I want to touch on something that you may not have noticed. There's symbolism here connecting to September 11th. The way the buildings are falling was Al-Qaeda's original intention for their tower bombing in 1993. And I don't think any of us can see skyscrapers falling without thinking about that terrible day. So the subtext of this sequence is that we all wish there was somebody who could have prevented all of these disasters in our lives. And now that somebody is here. And then we go to Lex Luthor, his girlfriend Miss Taskmaster, and two henchmen infiltrating the Fortress of Solitude. Now the henchmen are the engineer who can use nanotech to turn her body into almost anything. She's a member of the Authority, another DCU movie that James Gunn has announced. And this is Ultraman, who in the comics is an evil alternate Earth version of Superman. Now no one has announced who's playing him in this movie, but there's a big clue in this trailer we'll talk about later on. Now one thing I love about Superman movies and these trailers is that I just can't stop myself from getting emotional. And as men, we're taught that we shouldn't express our feelings or cry.
Strong men also cry.
So guys, if I can just take a second, I want to talk about something that's really personal to me. June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and you guys know I have a history of depression and anxiety. I talk about it on the channel all the time. And when we did our live shows, it meant so much to me that so many of you guys would come up to me and talk about your own mental health struggles. Like I recently found out that 1 in 4 men face mental health challenges, and most of us delay treatment because we think it's not masculine to ask for help. Like for instance, I grew up in a small town where the boys were supposed to just suck it up, and frankly, that's not healthy. When I was growing up, I knew so many men who were really struggling with anxiety and depression, and they never got help for it. And I realized I had the same pattern in my life. I was letting my anxiety and depression take over my daily life. So when BetterHelp reached out to me to sponsor us, I tried out the service for myself, and BetterHelp helped me so much. My therapist taught me to work through so many of my underlying problems, like the actual causes of my anxiety and depression. I am so glad that I had the courage to take that first step with BetterHelp, the sponsor of this video. BetterHelp BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier, more flexible, and judgment-free, so you can begin your mental health journey on your own terms. A therapist will listen, they'll ask questions, and help you to see things from new perspectives. And just like they did for me, they can give you advice and techniques to make positive changes in your life. All you do is fill out a questionnaire, and they will match you with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And if it's not the right fit, you can easily switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. BetterHelp has more than 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 rating on Trustpilot, so they are a platform that you can trust. Click the link in the description below or go to betterhelp.com/ScreenCrush to get 10% off your first month of therapy. You won't regret it. It helped me out so much. Now, back to what I was saying. Hey, what happened to your beard? I cut it off, then I grew it back real fast. So, in the trailer, Lex infiltrating the Fortress of Solitude is an idea lifted from Superman 2. The Fortress has always been Superman's hidden bastion of his old Kryptonian life. The version in this movie seems heavily based on the one that we saw in the comic book All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly. Outside, we see that the gateway is an S.
But it looks like an S.
Yes, it's meant to. It's meant to wind like a river.
Okay, enough of that. Now, in the Silver Age comic book, Superman used to open the door with a giant gold key that only he could lift. So I think there must be some kind of device here where the door can detect Kryptonian DNA. And this is also the first big clue that Ultraman is secretly a Superman clone. I'll talk about the other reveal a little later in the video. Notice Lex is also wearing snow goggles as he narrates, telling Superman that he will destroy him. And as he says this, he goes to this console, just like Gene Hackman went to the Crystal console in Superman 2. But I wonder what Lex's definition of destroy him will be. I don't think he wants to kill Superman, not yet. I think first he wants to destroy his reputation, just like in the great comic book Superman Birthright. In that comic, Lex found images of past Kryptonian soldiers and then he leaked them to the press to claim that Superman was an advanced scout for an invading alien force. Here, Lex could be accessing Kryptonian technology and imagery to use in a PR war against Superman. And also, I think he wants to use their Phantom Zone technology for himself. What's the Phantom Zone? So the Phantom Zone is where Kryptonians sent their criminals. Basically, it's another dimension. We think that's the prison we see Superman escaping from later on, and we're going to talk about its connection to this weird shot later in the video.
Some ugly baby, huh?
We see Ultraman pinning down Superman, another hint that he has Superman's level of strength and could be a clone. And then Lex goes too far, promising to kill his loved ones.
Who raised you as a child? I'll kill them too.
And this reminded me of another all-time great villain monologue.
Now that you've really pissed me off, I'm gonna finish her nice and slow.
He calls Lois the reporter you always do interviews with. And we actually saw one of those interviews in the last trailer.
I would question myself in the same situation and consider the consequences.
People were going to die.
And I love that moment because it shows Superman having a real human reaction. And it also shows how he'll be vulnerable to public outcry against his actions, which Lex Luthor will exploit in this film. I think all of this takes place when Lex has imprisoned Superman and he's interrogating him. He presses, asking him who raised him, as we see the Kents nursing Clark back to health in his old room. In fact, the greenish hue on his skin makes it look like he has kryptonite poisoning. And this scene could also be before he lands in the Arctic when he needs Krypto to help him get all the way home. Now, as we see Superman crashing to the earth, we see Lex looking down from above, tying into the movie's tagline, "Look up." But the subtext here is who gets to be up in this universe? Is it the guy who suffers to help people, or the billionaire who helps people suffer and only cares about himself? And then we see Lex in what looks like a Kryptonian prison. Now, we have seen in the trailer other people in these cells, including the superhero Metamorpho. So I think they're locking up anybody who has superpowers who is not already part of a government-sanctioned superhero team, the Justice Gang. Now, the Justice Gang are this movie's version of the Justice League, and I'll talk about them in just a little bit. Inside the fortress, the robots saving Superman are based on designs from All-Star Superman, and the title font is from the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. And just like in those movies, the fortress is a crystalline structure that grows up from the ground. Now, as they use these magnifying glasses to amplify sunlight and cook him like an ant, notice this on the right. That is one of those cool globes that opens up into a bar, like the one we saw here in the Peacemaker Season 2 trailer.
Person, that's not a globe part. That's just some Kryptonian stuff.
You sure? God, I really want one of those. Classy AF.
Let's refocus.
And then Superman fights this big kaiju. Now, this could be a creature that Lex releases from the Kryptonian Zoo. In the comics, Superman always kept a few remaining animals that survived the destruction of Krypton in his Fortress of Solitude. And he also kept the bottle city of Kandor, which was a real Kryptonian city that was shrunk down. So the kaiju could have been shrunk in size, but then Lex regrows it. But I think this could also more likely be some kind of holographic threat, like Lex manufactures in Superman Birthright to frame the Man of Steel. In the background, we see that Metropolis schools are shut down on, we also see the sign for Big Belly Burger, the same burger joint that appeared in the CW shows and in the comics. And this ad, Take Public Transit, could be a reference to Superman actually stopping a train in Action Comics 1000. And then we see this person in a super suit called the Hammer of Baravia in a leaked newspaper headline, and he is attacking the HQ of Lord Tech. Now, Lord Tech is owned by Maxwell Lord, played by Sean Gunn in this movie and in Peacemaker Season 2. In the comics and in this universe, Lord operates the Justice League, except in this movie they're called the Justice Gang, and their members include Mr. Terrific, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and maybe Ultraman. And this is what I think is a key shot. Now, it's hard to tell, but I think this is Ultraman without a helmet firing heat vision at Superman. So, for me, this pretty much confirms that he is a clone of Superman, Bizarro. Bizarro is kind of a twisted version of Superman who is imperfect in every way, and in some variations, he was created by Lex Luthor to challenge the Man of Steel. So I think this is what would allow Ultraman to fight Superman and to enter the Fortress of Solitude. We also get several shots in and around this Phantom Zone prison. Now, in this shot, we see a rift opening through Metropolis with Luthor Corps' HQ in the background. I should also note that in Superman 78, Lex's big plan was to create a fault line just like this and drown California in the ocean. And later, it looks like this prison is beneath the surface of Metropolis, maybe causing this rift to open. So here, Superman says,
Good luck with that.
and notice the red around his eyes. Maybe this happened somehow when he escaped the prison, like we saw him do in the first trailer. He and Krypto fly upwards to take out a member of the Lex Corps. Now, this is Lex's private armored police force that he created to replace Superman. And here we see they have the same color scheme that we saw in the comics, Superman for All Seasons by Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. I love how Krypto removes the helmet first, giving Superman an opening to punch him. And notice how the teeth just hit the camera, they make a sound, and then they rest on the lens. We see Gunn do this all throughout the trailer, making the camera an active participant in the action. Like when Superman takes off, and just for a few frames, the camera has trouble catching up to it.
Hey, buddy. Eyes up here.
And then we see Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner. Now, Fillion has been in every James Gunn movie, and here he's playing a former Green Lantern. And the Green Lanterns are a corps of space cops, and for a while, Gardner was a member. But in this universe, he's more of a hired gun working for Max Lord. Gardner is also a spectacular douche in the comics. He's arrogant and leering, and just a great foil for somebody noble like Superman. He calls him Big Blue, just like in the comics, and he's encased Superman inside of a green dome. To me, this actually looks like the Lord Tech lobby where we saw Gardner first appear in the first trailer. And then we go to Lord Tech Field, also named after Max Lord, and home to the Metropolis baseball team, the Meteors, just like in the comics. This is an ad for Soda Cola, a popular soda in DC Comics that was first introduced in Action Comics 663. And Serraro is named after Adi Serraro, the lead graphic designer of this film. And this is the staff of the Daily Planet inside of Mr. Terrific's T-ship, including Lois, Jimmy, Perry White, Cat Grant, and Ron Troop. And we see that Jimmy's laptop has a Lord Tech logo, and this bulletin board shows Sam Lane, who is Lois's father.
Wait, slow down. Who is Mr. Terrific?
Well, he is a member of the Justice Gang in this movie. So in the comics, Michael Holt, aka Mr. Terrific, is one of the DC Universe's mega geniuses and the second hero to use the name Mr. Terrific. This version is not just intelligent, but he has the physical capabilities of an Olympic decathlete. He uses his T-spheres and T-ship, which we see in the trailer, to fight. With them, he can create lasers, holographs, and use them to fly. So again, this holograph technology does exist in this universe, and Lex Luthor could use it to frame Superman. And this takes us to the weirdest shot in the trailer. On the right, we see Metamorpho, played by Anthony Kerrigan, holding onto Superman. Now, Metamorpho's real name is Rex Mason, and in the comics, he was hired by Simon Stagg of Stagg Industries to go after a mysterious artifact called the Orb of Ra. However, when he found it, Mason was transformed into the shape-shifting hero that we see here. Now, prior to accepting his superhero identity as Metamorpho, he actually sought out help from the Justice League International, but they didn't succeed in turning him back to normal, so he rejects their membership offer.
Right, so what's that incredibly realistic baby he's holding? Is that one of the babies from The Flash?
I don't know, it might be that baby from American Sniper. So we think Superman is holding baby Joseph, Metamorpho and Sapphire Stagg's son from Justice League Europe number 12. Now, while not multicolored like in the comics, DC's McFarlane toy line has confirmed this is baby Joey. Now, Stagg is one of 3 Metacorps in this film and is responsible for Metamorpho's powers. In the comics, Simon Stagg, the owner of the company, tries to use the green baby to create an endless supply of gold. Metamorpho ultimately saves him and uses the Orb of Ra to reverse the effects. But the most important thing overlaying in this shot is this strange portal. This could be the portal to the Phantom Zone. Maybe this cube prison came from this gateway and then appeared in Metropolis and caused it to split. And then inside the split, Superman grabs a lamppost and then uses it to hit this same guy that we just saw under the tunnels. Now, this could be the Hammer Baravia. Kind of looks like him, but I'm still saying it's Bizarro, and he has been cloned by Lex Luthor. And then Luthor says,
"They chose him! Let them die!"
So Lex is a billionaire who sees everything as transactional. If somebody doesn't support him, then he cuts them off. In this case, the city chooses Superman as its hero instead of him. So he won't lift a finger to save them. But this shot of Superman saving this little girl is actually taken from the kaiju fight at the beginning of the trailer. Now, I gotta point out a mistake. In the last trailer, during that fight, we saw a street named Ross. And I said it could be named after Pete Ross, Superman's boyhood friend. But I was stupid, and you guys rightly called me out for that. In fact, in our first trailer breakdown, we correctly identified that this street was actually named after the artist Alex Ross, who designed this version of Superman's S for the comic book Kingdom Come.
Yeah, I felt like a big old dum-dum after that one.
Me too. And in this last shot, it looks like he's either fighting more of the Lex Corps or, I think, a fake Kryptonian invasion force that Lex has set up to make the public distrust him. Guys, I am so excited for this movie and for the new DCU. I know we talk about Marvel mostly on this channel because, well, that's what there's been to talk about. But I also grew up loving and reading DC Comics. I have seen the original Superman movies and the original Batman movies more times than I can even count. And James Gunn is a creative voice who I trust to shepherd this universe. I'll be honest, when I heard he was writing Superman, I thought, oh, but doesn't he usually get too blue for movies like that? But everything we've seen from these trailers and from the marketing material shows that this is a guy who understands the essence of Superman. I think a lot of people didn't grow up with like the idealized Superman that I know. People grew up with Zack Snyder's Superman, who was, entertaining for what he was, but he didn't have that essence of a person who always wants to do good just for the sake of doing good. At least that's my thoughts. I know a lot of you guys really love the Henry Cavill Superman, so you can let me know what you think down in the comments below, or on our free to join Discord server, Twitter, Blue Sky Threads, all that stuff. And if it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.